No, the title of this video is not clickbait. In 2025, I think there is a decent chance that we see crypto fall off a cliff again. And into 2026, I think it's going to be the complete opposite. I think we could potentially see a massive bull market. And because of how volatile this next 1 to 2 years is looking like it's going to be, you really need a game plan to capitalize on this crash if it does come, to get really good entries, and then to be into the right coins so that when the market does go back up, you're making massive profits. And that's what we talk about in this video, how to get prepared for what is to come. Crypto is looking like it will be performing very poorly in 2025, but I believe it's going to make a comeback into 2026. And I want to talk about how you guys can all get prepared for this and make life-changing wealth. There's 4 things we want to cover today, and one of them is really, really important, and it's the potential COVID Black Swan 2.0 that is potentially going to play out with Trump and China and the whole tariff situation. I want to talk about the different scenarios that could happen with the tariffs. Things could get really, really bad and crypto could die temporarily. Things could be good and we could already be at the bottom, but I want to talk about these scenarios and how to know when to buy, hopefully at a massive discount. Now, I want to talk about one new online business income source that I've seen pop up that I think is a really good opportunity to exploit so that you can stack cash for the next 6 to 12 months so that you can play it at the bottom and make massive returns. And I also want to talk about what coins and sectors that you guys should be looking to buy on the crash so that you can maximize your upside into 2026. Because if you're still holding any of these coins like Giga and SPX and all these sort of coins that are now getting old, you're not going to be doing well into 2026. I can guarantee you that. So Trump with this China tariff situation is the reason we might be having a massive buying opportunity coming up. So I want to paint the overall picture for why this is so that you guys are aware, okay? So right now, China and the US are having a tariff battle. China will raise its tariffs on the US, and then US will come back and raise its tariffs on China. As of a couple days ago, Trump has just raised tariffs on China for some things to be up to 245%. So it's getting pretty absurd at the moment. And if the tariffs of these size are to go through, thousands and then millions of American small businesses, including many iconic brands, will go bankrupt this year if the tariff policies on China don't change, because it is just simply too expensive of a tariff for these companies to be able to import things to America, and consumers are just not going to pay the price that these companies are going to be charging, and it is going to just devastate the economy if it goes through. Now, Trump's tariff war, if it continues, presents more issues beyond this as well. It's also going to massively increase the cost of goods because the cost of importing things to America is going to become incredibly expensive. It could even have a deflationary impact because simply people will just stop buying things. There's going to be supply chain disruptions. So for example, US has an inability to replace rare earth supply from China. Beijing has imposed export restrictions on 7 rare earth elements that America uses for defense production, for energy, and for automotive technologies. There's certain minerals that China is exporting to America that goes into the production of EV cars and military hardware. They won't be able to produce this. Another thing is that everyday goods and services can have shortages. If you go to the grocery store and there's just certain things that you can't get now, that's going to cause these shortages, potentially a mass panic from everyone to go and stock up on certain things that they don't think they're going to be able to get in the future. And a China-US conflict could continue to get worse that goes beyond simply tariffs. There's a potential massive war brewing here. And these are just all potential outcomes of the tariff situation that sort of Trump is pushing for. Let's talk about some scenarios that I think Alex Kruger actually explains really well here for what this could mean for crypto and the massive opportunity that this is potentially presenting. So the first scenario is the scenario where crypto has already bottomed, right? This is the bottom for the market. Tariffs, they're only going to get better from here. There's going to be some sort of deal between China in early July. This would be a scenario where the bottom's already in and the market goes up, okay? The second scenario is where high tariffs with Europe and China remain in place, right? The 245% tariff that we saw, that sort of remains, this one here. And then we would have some sort of bounce in the market, bouncing from this critical support level, and then pain and lower lows a few months out as we start to see the impacts of this tariff talk affecting the real economy, right? Because the economy would start to roll over. People are either going to pay way more for the cost of an item or buy significantly less of these items, or both, right? And that would lead to a recession. And then there's the scenario 3, which is sort of something in between, okay? But I think scenario 1 and scenario 2 are the most likely scenarios. And it is scenario 2, which I think would give us an insane buying opportunity on crypto, where we would come down to this 50, 60K level potentially, and that would be a really good opportunity. In order to understand tariffs, one way to look at it is if there's a 10% flat tax tariff that America has also spoken about doing, this would be mostly absorbed by the foreign producers because these companies will be able to still sell to American customers, but they will still need to remain competitive with obviously all of their competitors, and so they probably absorb that cost because they can cover that. 50% tariff, a company that is exporting to America simply cannot absorb a full 50% 50% tariff, they probably don't even have 50% margins. And so they have to pass that on to the price that the consumer pays. A 245% tariff that America has put on China, as we saw, is going to stop all trade altogether. So Trump is, as you can see, on the path to cause a COVID black swan 2.0 if he goes ahead with this high level of tariff. And it's looking unlikely Trump pulls back for a while, unless something breaks and forcing a pivot. And this is the big part that we want to talk about. Because the thing to understand about the trade war is that neither China or the US will pull back easily, because it will look like they are admitting defeat, they are admitting weakness. And that is not something that Trump or China want to do. But as far as you should understand, this is an all bark, no bite situation where both sides will hold strong in their tariff escalations, but only pivot once something major breaks. And the way that I like to view it is like this video here, right? This is China and this is Trump, right? This is the US. When the glass wall is up and there is no major consequences for the tariff escalations, obviously they're going to keep barking at each other. 100% tariffs, 200% tariffs, because there's no real effect on the economy. But then as soon as the glass door opens, or as soon as we have something massive break in the economy, then obviously they stop barking and they're friends again. And I would expect a similar dynamic to occur with China and the US. For as long as the tariff talks are not having a substantial impact on the functioning of their economies, they can continue to bark at each other without sort of consequence. But as soon as something breaks, I think they pivot and they come to some sort of resolution. And if you want to view it from a perspective of the art of the deal, and the approach that Trump is taking is essentially you ask for significantly more than you actually want, so that when you pull back and you accept less, you're maximizing the amount that you're going to get. The key for you to understand as an investor is that eventually there's going to be a pivot once something breaks, and being able to understand when they pivot, when the glass door opens, is going to be the key to making it big in the 2026 bull market, okay? Because 2026, it looks like it's going to be a great year, as Alex Kruger again is saying. Cheap asset prices, QE turned on, rate cuts, world war averted, right, as something breaks, and also a gold top historically marks the beginning of the Bitcoin uptrend. So if you have a look here, you can see that gold has been rallying for months, and then that's when Bitcoin starts to catch up to it after the peak is already in. You can see we've had the rally here in gold, and Bitcoin hasn't been doing much. When the gold top is in, you can expect Bitcoin to catch up. That's just the pattern that has kept repeating sort of over multiple cycles. Now, the thing to understand about buying this bottom is that everybody is going to be waiting for QE to bid. It's the thing that everyone's looking at. Oh my God, when they turn on QE, the bull market's back. But by the time they announce the beginning of QE, because everyone's looking at it, you're going to be too late. So you need to look for what's called soft pivots. So a soft pivot would be the beginnings of the pivot to QE. So it would be something like SLR redemptions for banks to buy more treasuries, or something that's more like a soft pivot, something that's like a light QE, because you also want to see an inflection point hit. So you want to see a point of fear that feels so extreme that the Fed has to pivot. And once the Fed has pivoted, that puts a peak on the fear of how extreme that fear is of that event, right? Once the Fed bid, the Fed put comes in, that's when sort of the point of peak fear has happened. And we have a point of peak fear here, but if the Trump-China tariff sort of situation gets worse, then the peak fear would probably be down here, this region. As I said, we've maybe already hit that level. It really depends on if they escalate or de-escalate the tariff talks from here. And the future is path dependent. It really depends on, what's happening. Because a lot of people are looking at like M2 money supply data with a 12-week sort of lead and saying, oh, look, M2's going up, so Bitcoin has to go up, without understanding that M2 is, compared to tariffs, a very small variable. The thing controlling price right now is the escalation or the de-escalation of tariff trade war talk between China and the US. That's the only thing driving markets. That's the main thing that you need to be analyzing. And that's why we're talking about it so much in this video, because it's the most important thing to be looking at. So now you understand the potential COVID Black Swan 2.0, the different scenarios, and when you should be buying. Now I want to talk about what you should be doing in the next 6 to 12 months to stack cash for this potential opportunity. There's two massive opportunities in the online space. One, actually, this one right here is even bigger, okay, for people who are interested in AI. So I want to talk about this, because who gives a fuck about crypto hitting a bottom if you don't have 20K to put in? You need capital. You need money to make money. So there is a generational arbitrage opportunity occurring right now where traditional business owners are paying thousands of dollars, if not tens of thousands of dollars, for services that can be done for pennies by smart prompts using AI technology. And there is millions to be made by those who become experts at prompt engineering. Prompt engineering is one of the most valuable skills that you could learn in the world going forward over the next 5 to 10 years. Because with the correct prompt, if not now, in the near future, you will be able to do the work that used to only be possible by the world's best photographers, the world's best graphic designers, the world's best website designers, the world's best coders. You will
replace all of these people if you can become a professional at prompt engineering. And an AI service agency would essentially involve designing websites, doing graphic design, customer support automation, high quality product photos, or a number of other things. One example of a SaaS that you could use is called HeyBossAI.com. And what it essentially does is you prompt it with an idea for a website or an app or a game, and it will build it for you in minutes, live in 9 minutes. Now, I haven't used this. I'm not sure how good this site is, and I think this technology is still very new, but this concept of creating a website with a basic prompt is the future. You will not have humans build websites. You will literally just prompt a website and it will get built for you. And whoever can prompt the best, because prompting is a skill. It's like a university degree level skill. Whoever can prompt the best is going to make the best websites and is going to get paid the most amount of money. And the beauty of this business for someone looking to stack cash for crypto is there is minimal competition because it's at the bleeding edge of tech. It's a very new business model. Not many people know about it. Plus, it's a high profit margin business. There's not many expenses. The expense is the time that you put in, meaning that you are making significant liquid profits to put straight into crypto so that you can buy the potential crash that's coming, as we just talked about. Now, I would only recommend this business for those who are actually interested in AI. If you're not interested in AI, maybe do something else. But for those who have an interest in AI, this is a generational opportunity, and it is an arbitrage opportunity. This is key to understand. The money that you make from this is the arbitrage between the knowledge that you have as someone young who understands new technology and someone who's old who runs a traditional business who thinks they have to pay $5,000 for a good website, when you can just prompt an AI, have it built in 5 minutes, and maybe you hire other people to prompt for you, so you don't actually have to do anything. You just charge $5,000 for a website, have it made in 10 minutes basically for free. The easiest cash flow businesses to make are those in sectors that are on the bleeding edge. That's something you guys need to understand. A new business is the easiest to make money from, a new business model that the world hasn't seen, because there's no one that's been doing it for years and years who are just the best at it. It's sort of like an even playing field. There's not much of a moat that people have. If you try to make a news company, those have existed for hundreds of years. You got a lot of competition. If you try to make a restaurant, there's a lot of competition. Those are harder to make. But if you make a business in a new sector, even when you think about it from a crypto perspective, if you try to make money from meme coins back when meme coins were new, it was very easy. And now every week, every month, it's getting harder and harder because the new thing is always the easiest because there's the lowest barrier to entry. So you can get pretty good at it pretty quick. And that's what AI is going through right now. Now let's talk about the second opportunity. This is still a massive opportunity. High ticket sales. I've spoken about this one a few times, but high ticket sales is basically the fastest and easiest way to make money online. You will need to have really good English speaking skills to do this, but high ticket sales is basically selling other business owners high ticket products through text or calls and collecting a commission. So an example of a product could be a coaching program. Maybe someone sells a $10,000 weight loss coaching program. Maybe someone sells a e-commerce course or something. And then also B2B services. So maybe someone sells a $10,000 AI implementation package and you have to sell that to another business. Now, with most offers, so offer meaning the thing you sell, no prior experience is needed. With a good business, you learn the skills on the job, and there's decent earning potential with minimal risk. So you can make 10, 20K a month, and you're not taking on the risk of being the business owner. You're just an employee. Plus, it's also a remote job. You'd never go into an office really for high ticket sales jobs. Some you do, but most you don't. Okay. Now, if you want to learn high ticket sales, I would recommend following this guy, Connor Healy. He is the best coach that I have found, and I'm also a good friend of him, and I've been watching him do high ticket sales for years, and his YouTube is here. I'd recommend following him to learn about high ticket sales. So these are the two opportunities that I would recommend to stack cash so that you can come back to the crypto market when it's at its bottom in 6-12 months, hopefully from now, when we have a massive black swan event potentially happening with the Trump tariff situation, and then you buy in. Now, what are we buying at this bottom? Well, that's the next thing we want to talk about. What coins and sectors to buy to maximize upside. In my personal portfolio, and what I recommend for you is a heavy barbell strategy. So what I would suggest is you have Bitcoin or high upside coins. So typically below 100 million market cap. The reason I recommend this is because if you own anything that's in the middle of these two, you're taking on more risk for a highly likely lower return. The way I would think about alts is that your alt should be able to pretty easily outperform Bitcoin by 3x, or you're just going to end up underperforming because if you buy an altcoin, you have to sell it after a short period of time. time. Altcoins, as you know, are much more about timing. You can buy Bitcoin and go to sleep for 10 years and wake up and you're fine, right? Or 5 years and you're fine. You can't just buy an altcoin, go to sleep for 5 years and be fine. That's not how altcoins work. Altcoins are a much shorter term game. Maybe you still hold it for 6-9 months, but the idea is that if you are buying altcoins, you are going to pay more in taxes because you are going to be holding it for a period of time which would be considered short-term capital gains. If you buy Bitcoin, you're typically going to hold it for longer, you're going to pay less in tax. Now, there's also another variable that you have to keep in mind when you buy altcoins, and it is the concept of further downside volatility when you go to sell. The absolute minimum outperformance that you should have on an altcoin is 3 times Bitcoin to break even, because you're not going to sell a top, right? So let's say this is Bitcoin. Bitcoin tops here, and then it goes down 10%. In the same time that Bitcoin has gone down 10%, your altcoin has gone up more, but it's also gone down more. It's down here. So a 10% decline on Bitcoin is equivalent to a 30% decline on your altcoin. They are typically maybe 2-3 times more volatile to the downside. And you're not going to sell a top, so you're going to sell it maybe when Bitcoin's down 10%. So you need your altcoin to go up 3 times more on the upside to make up for the fact that the downside is like 3 times more when it goes down. And the way that I would visualize this concept is here. The green is your really high upside altcoin, so something like Toshi. The yellow is Bitcoin, and something like Link or DOT is the red one. So let's say you hold Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is Bitcoin. That's fine to hold. If you buy Link, there is a brief period of time here where Link outperforms Bitcoin, but that period of time is so short that it's actually really hard to time. If you buy a high upside meme coin like Toshi, Toshi was outperforming Bitcoin the entire rally. Now, obviously, eventually it went down more. As you can see here, it went lower than yellow, but the period of time that it's outperforming for, and that period of outperformance is bigger and longer than you're going to have with a coin that is bigger than Toshi, but smaller than Bitcoin. And that is why you should be holding a heavy barbell strategy of only Bitcoin or high upside coins, because you want to be able to capture way more upside if you're holding an altcoin, because you're taking on way more risk. So this is the Link weekly chart. You can see here that when Link was new, obviously it was outperforming Bitcoin. It was a good thing to hold. But after its first cycle, it's been perpetually making lower lows, lower highs against the Bitcoin chart. Now, obviously, if you held Link against the US dollar pair, you could have bought the bottom and made some money. However, buying Link instead of Bitcoin means you're taking on more risk, because Link is riskier than Bitcoin, and you're making less money. If you're an actually smart investor who does this shit properly, there is no way that you can justify buying something that has more risk to make less money. That doesn't make sense. You don't just buy something that could go up 1,000%. You buy something that could go up 1,000% and has limited downside. You buy something that has a small enough downside that the upside and the win rate is justified and is profitable. Just because something could go up 10,000% doesn't mean you should buy it. If there's a 0.1% chance something goes up 10,000%, you're not going to buy that because the chance is so low. That's not profitable. If you buy Link, you're longing a coin in a downtrend. Is it easier to short a downtrend or long a downtrend? It's easier to short a downtrend. It's easier to make money with the trend than against it. And with Link, you can see that for 4 years now, the trend is down. So the only thing you should be doing with Link is shorting it, not longing it. And it's the same thing now with Solana. When did Solana actually outperform Bitcoin? Well, it was about a 4-5 month period, but then for over a year, it went sideways and it didn't outperform Bitcoin. And now it's looking like the beginning of the ETH chart when that died. And it's probably just going to go like this. So this is where it made sense to buy Solana. And then for the rest of the time, it didn't actually really make sense. Here it was good, but the rest of it didn't really make sense. So if you're holding coins like Giga, SBX, these are actually going to be outdated coins by the time the market is going up again, and it's going to be unlikely to outperform going forward. So I'm personally focusing my portfolio on 4 different things: buying Bitcoin, buying sub 100 mil AI coins, buying sub 100 mil meme coins, buying Tesla. If you want to learn why I'm bullish on Tesla, I covered it in an extensive voice message in my free Telegram. I'll put a link in the bio. I put a lot of detailed stuff in that. And what you should be doing is you should be adjusting the percentages in each of these based on your portfolio size, risk tolerance, and goals, okay? If you are super risk on, obviously you'd put small amount in Bitcoin and you'd be mostly in memes and AI. So why am I bullish on AI coins in crypto? Well, firstly, AI coins in crypto is a scam. It's not real. But I think if we enter a speculative mania into 2026, when QE is activated and the bull market comes back, when people have profits and a fever to gamble, they're just going to put money into whatever the dominant narrative trend trend ideas are. Now, what are going to be the dominant trends in 2026? Well, AI is going to be all people think about. AI this, AI that, AI robotics, AI tech, AI agents, blah, blah. This is only the beginning of the AI trend. So I would expect new AI use cases to rise and subsequent coins created to capitalize on this. And I think AI is not an investable niche, really. If you want to invest into AI, you buy Tesla, you buy Nvidia, but these are already valued very high. What do you buy if you want 100x your money on AI? Well, you can only go to crypto. And meme coins, well, every single cycle have been the most reliable way to make money once people have profits and they're trying to make money on things. Memes are where people go to gamble their profits. And I would bet on memes being popular again. To summarize everything, if you're able to stack a decent sum of cash over the next 6 to 12 months, buy in at the right time in the right coins, and hold for the 2026 bull run, there's no reason that you can't become a millionaire by the end of 2026 or in the 2027. Pretty reasonable, I would say. I run a private mastermind community where I work one-on-one with every member to help them make their first million and beyond from crypto. I give these people the exact strategies that I'm following. So, the meme coins that I talked about, the AI coins that I talked about, airdrop farming, long-term investing, stock investments, and more. I give all of these exact strategies to my members in the community. Now, inside my private mastermind community, we also have 3 other analysts, and we have an introduction on them on the website. Erebos, Josh, and Migs. Collectively, these guys have made over 15 million from crypto. And basically, every member of my mastermind is going to be following the game plan that we talked about in this video. So in the video, we talk about all the different scenarios that could play out, what you're going to look for to buy a bottom, what coins you're going to buy. That whole strategy, like the actual implementation of that strategy, is in the mastermind. So if you're serious about making money from crypto, you like the plan that I talked about in this video, and you want to work alongside an expert who's already made 8 mil and 3 other experts who've made 15 mil from crypto, and I did this by the age of 25, you can apply at the website in the description of this video, and you can also book a call if you'd like to speak directly to my head analyst. And this is the website here. You'll find a link to it in the description below. But thank you guys for watching the video. Hope you got some value. Hope you guys can survive so that you can crush it in the 2026 bull run. I think it's going to be a great year. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.